Hey guys, today I'm talking about growing turmeric from the grocery store turmeric you see in the produce section, and it's really easy to do. You just have to be sure and follow a few very specific steps, but you can grow your own turmeric at home. You can overwinter it inside your house, and it's really a very healthy supplement you can use in your diet, and I highly recommend growing it. It's a lot easier than you'd think. It's not that hard. You just got to follow those specific rules. We're going to go through each one of those real quickly, and let's head into the greenhouse and I'll show you how to do it. Now guys, I know I may be mispronouncing turmeric. Most people call it turmeric, but the way it's written to me, it looks like turmeric. So if I get those two transposed here and there throughout the video, I hope you'll forgive me. But turmeric is a tropical plant. It's known for its beautiful leaves. And the most important thing about it is the edible rhizome. It doesn't have a root. Well, it has roots, but specifically the thing we consume in our diet as a supplement or a health supplement is the rhizome. And it's a beautiful orange rhizome. It looks just like pumpkin on the inside, but it's really got a lot of health benefits. It would take an hour to go through all of those, so I don't have time for that. But if I was a health channel, I definitely would go through and list each one of them. You can find it pretty easy on the internet. But today we're talking about starting and growing turmeric in containers and having them look like this in a very short amount of time. So guys, turmeric is a tropical plant, and it does require a lot of humidity and a lot of warmth. So it will not grow in my area in the wintertime, zone 7A. So if you live in an area that gets below, let's say 50 degrees in the wintertime, it's probably going to be something you want to put in containers that you can take in and out of your garden, or you can harvest at the end of the year. But to get an early start, you really do want to start it in a container with a lot of humidity and just the right soil conditions. So guys, I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can get a better view of turmeric and exactly what it looks like if you haven't seen it before. But you want to make sure the turmeric you buy is organic, because if it's not organic, it probably means it's crossed an international border and it has been sprayed with a growth inhibitor, which means it's not going to sprout the knobs or the nodules you're going to need to grow the plant. So just remember, organic is the way you want to go. You want to avoid the ones that don't say specifically organic. So guys, we're going to take a look at some of the turmeric or turmeric, whichever way you pronounce it. Now this is showing some nodules on both sides, and sometimes it can be treated with ethylene gas and it still can be marked as organic. So that's one of those things you have to know for sure. I'm kind of wondering whether or not these are going to sprout because of that, but I'm going to cut one open and let you see exactly what it looks like on the inside. Let's see if I can get this without making a ton of noise. So you can see it is like a pumpkin color. It is like a pumpkin color, very orange and very healthy for you. So this is usually used as a spice, Indian spice, but it really has a lot of health benefits. So I'd say that if you do your research, you'll see that this is truly something you want to grow to add to your diet. Now the turmeric that you choose, I'm trying to make sure this is in focus. You want to make sure that it's not dried or shriveled up, which may mean it's really old and it's not of good quality, even if it is listed as organic. So remember, you want it to be plump and you don't want it to be wrinkly looking. So that's just one thing to remember. You want it to look like it's still fresh from the field. Guys, when you get your turmeric home from the grocery store, you're going to want to make sure that you wash it thoroughly to remove any possible soil or possible chemical additives. If they did add it even as an organic product, that might help remove it. Now the next step you're going to do is you're going to do a 24-hour soak in water, and you're going to add about 1 teaspoon of hydrogen peroxide to that water per gallon, and then let it soak in that for 24 hours, and that's going to help it get a head start. Now if you have any extra large pieces and it has multiple possible buds on it, then you might be able to cut it in half. But just remember, you want about 2 or 3 of those buds on each piece. So if you cut it too small, it may limit the productivity and may weaken that rhizome. So just remember, you need to make sure there's at least 2 or 3 per rhizome. Once you finish your 24-hour soak with your turmeric or turmeric, you can put them on a paper towel and allow them to dry out. You don't want it to go into the soil wet, because that could cause a mold issue. So the purpose of the hydrogen peroxide is to help cut down on that, but at the same time, you just want to make sure the turmeric is fairly dry when it goes into your peat moss or your potting medium. So a mini greenhouse tray like this is ideal because we want to maximize humidity and moisture retention. So that's just one thing you're going to want to do. is start them in a small tray greenhouse like this. And if it has an adjustable top that can be open and closed, you want to make sure it's closed because you want that humidity to be 100%. So I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so we can take a look at the exact process, the soil mixture, and how to plant these in your miniature greenhouse. Okay, you want to space these a couple inches, 1.5 to 2 inches apart, and you want to kind of look at your buds and make sure they are facing up. So that's a little bit tricky, but you just need to go through. In my case, I don't have a lot of buds showing, so I'm just going to have to very carefully look and make sure I'm not planting them with the buds down, because then that will probably hinder the growth. Okay, and we're just going to kind of pack some of these in a little bit tighter since there's a couple of small ones in there. But anyways, we're going to top this with additional peat moss, probably about, maybe a 1/2 inch. And that's going to help them get a really good start. We're not going to heavily water these. We're going to very lightly water them because there are no drainage holes on the bottom of this container, but we do want the moisture to be as high as possible as far as humidity inside the container. So just remember, your container needs to be moist but not waterlogged. So just remember, you want to moisten the soil lightly, and you want to do it also, again, you want to use the water that you have your hydrogen peroxide mixture in, and that's going to help prevent any mold or fungal issues. There you have it. It's ready to go to the next step. Now I'm going to carefully water this and try not to put too much water in there because, like I said before, we want it to be moist but not waterlogged. Now, one mistake I probably made here is I should have probably pre-moistened the peat moss, and you can do that, and you want the peat moss to have the consistency of a wet sponge when you squeeze it. So just remember, you can do that before you put the peat moss into the container, and that will help make sure it has just the right amount of water, a mistake I just made. But anyways, next thing we're going to do, I'm going to spray our hydrogen peroxide solution across the top of it. And it's got a long way to go for this to be completely absorbed because peat moss takes a while to absorb moisture. We're going to put our top on. I'm going to tape both sides of it because some of these humidity tray domes do not want to stay on. I'm going to put painter's tape on each side, label it, and put the date on it, and that's going to tell me exactly when to expect I should see some sprouts coming up. Now you want to make sure that you keep a close eye on the soil moisture as the germination phase starts and the growth phase is about to begin. You just want it to be consistently moist but not waterlogged. So use a good pH meter and that'll tell you what's happening. Even though the soil is really shallow, sometimes you can't tell what's below 1/4 inch below the soil. So if you want to try the finger test, that's fine too. But I like using a really good moisture meter so I'll know exactly what's happening right below that soil all the way down to the base of the container. Now, if you're starting these in the fall and you're going to be bringing them indoors throughout the winter, you're going to want to consider using a really good heat mat because the rhizomes are going to want a consistently warm soil. So just remember, a good heat mat can make all the difference in the success of your rhizomes. You want to check the water about once a week, or you want to check the surface of the soil and make sure that it's not completely dried out. So use a mister like the one I showed you. These solo misters are great. They're really one of my favorite things in the garden because they work so well. But remember, you want to keep that low dose of hydrogen peroxide in the water just to prevent any mold from starting on the surface of your soil. Now, if you're starting your turmeric outdoors and it's the beginning of spring and you don't have to worry about cold temperatures, then you're fine. But you want to remember, turmeric's preferred soil temperature or outside temperature is going to be between 68 and 86 degrees. Also, you want to remember that direct sunlight can cause leaf burn. So even though they can grow in some sun, you want partial shade to help them stay nice and healthy and avoid any issues with leaf scorch. Now, if you're starting your turmeric, like I said previously, indoors at the beginning of winter or the end of autumn, you want to use grow lights because once your leaves, they're going to need some UV light to help them get started for the following spring when you take them outdoors to the garden. We want to focus the energy on the rhizome below the soil rather than the leaf growth. So just remember, light fertilization with a liquid-based fertilizer about once a week, very light, maybe half strength to begin with, and then you can move it up. Remember, you want to avoid nitrogen, high nitrogen fertilizers because that's going to focus more energy on the leaf growth. We're more concerned about the rhizomes below the soil getting to their maximum size. If you're starting to see leaf discoloration, like a lot of yellowing, it may be a sign that you're putting too much fertilizer. So you're going to want to back off from your fertilization for a few weeks and see if it recovers to where it was before. Just remember, you're doing that at half strength and only once a week, very lightly. So you can expect to see the turmeric's leaves to start coming through the soil in anywhere from 3 to 8 weeks, probably a little bit closer to the 3 to 4 week period. Just remember, turmeric is known as a slow grower, so just use patience and be prepared for a little bit of a wait. So once your warmer season comes around and you take your turmeric outside, you want to make sure that you monitor it closely for spider mites or aphids. I've got a video of an organic, all-natural way to get rid of those. I'll link that up above. But that's something you just want to keep an eye out for. And a lot of times you'll see those on the undersides of the leaves. So it kind of is one of those things that kind of sneak up on you. You look under there and you realize there's aphids or spider mites all over your plant, whatever it might be. So you want to make sure that you have good air circulation for your turmeric plant. And just remember, you don't want to keep it isolated in an area where there's not good airflow, because that in itself can cause fungal issues and other diseases. So just remember, that's really important. Now you're going to want to remove any dead or dying leaves to make sure that the plant stays in its optimum growing condition. So like this one needs to be removed. I see some yellowing on that leaf. It may be just because it's under fertilized and it maybe just need a little bit of boost of fertilization. But anyways, just remember, remove those, check around the soil as well, and make sure there's no dead or dying plant material on top of the soil as well. Now another thing this yellow leaf could be starting to signal is that we're approaching the season which it would go dormant. In my area, it is grown as a perennial and here in zone 7A. So just remember, as the dormancy period starts to take place, you're going to see a lot more yellowing of leaves, and that's just a natural part of its going into dormancy for the winter. Now as the leaves die back, you're just going to want to prune them back to the ground level and then move that to a cool, dry place. Don't fertilize during the winter because it's going to be in a state of dormancy for several months before it starts sending out new shoots. Now, if your goal is to harvest the turmeric, then you want to wait till it's dyed back completely, really brown, and that's going to be about 8 to 10 months after you've started the rhizomes. So that's going to be almost a year, but it's going to be worth it because you're going to have a lot of turmeric if you plant it outdoors or you transfer it outdoors once the cold is passed in the spring. Once fall arrives, you'll be harvesting quite a bit of turmeric. So guys, I'm planning to upsize the pot on this 1 gallon pot of turmeric. So I'm going to pull this out, and it is really root bound. It's been growing here quite a bit, and it was under the irrigation system. So I'm going to have to prune away some of the roots from underneath, see if I can slide this out without damaging the plant. I want to keep it growing. I'm not planning on harvesting this year. I want to see how long I can grow it in this pot. And so the next set of turmeric I'm growing as, oops, a little messy there, but it is a little bit root bound, so maybe I should have already dug this up. But you can see there's quite a healthy root system going there. So I'm going to put this in a larger pot. I'm going to tease the roots out a little bit with my root hook, and we'll go into a larger pot, and I'll show you exactly what type of potting medium you need for that. So guys, I've pulled away some of the soil so you could see the rhizomes growing here, and they've multiplied and got it quite a bit larger from when I planted them. There's multiple rhizomes now in the soil, and I'm going to repot this, and hopefully next year, next spring, at the end of summer, I'll have quite a bit more of this, and I can use the rhizomes just to keep multiplying my plants. So just remember, if you don't want to harvest the first year, you can just keep doing this process until you have a huge area of turmeric. I'm sorry, I know this is driving everybody crazy. I just can't help myself. But anyways, I'm going to repot this. One thing I'm going to do in my pot is I always have a habit of adding a paper towel to the bottom of the pot. I usually just fold it over and put that in there. I already have my holes drilled, so we can put that in there. Now, the type of soil you're going to want to use is a homemade potting soil. I'll link that up above, and that is a custom mix I use to save up to 75% off of premium potting soil. All right, I'm just going to add our homemade potting mix here, get it close to the top, and I'm going to press down just a little bit and kind of dig out a hole in the center. But this is an extremely well draining soil. Now what I will tell you is I took 50% of my homemade potting mix and 50% peat, because turmeric prefers to have slightly acidic soil, somewhere around 6.5. So just remember, you want that soil to be on the acidic side, and so that's why I've done the peat moss. And also at the top, I'm going to do one more additive that I think will really help the plant grow, and it will help it to be much more healthy than it would normally be if I didn't add this final product. Now, I think that this is probably one of the most important additives you can do with any planting is worm castings. And I like to put about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch layer on top of the soil, and it acts as a slow release fertilizer. And so I'm just going to put that all the way around the plant on the top of the pot. And then we'll do one last thing that's a completely organic mulch on the top, and it really improves the appearance of the plant. Now, the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a soil conditioner purchased at Lowe's, and basically it is just a very finely ground pine bark, and I think it helps retain moisture, and it adds just a little bit of acidity as well, which is what turmeric wants. I'm just going to compact that down a little bit, and so next year we will have double the amount, and I might harvest some. And when you do harvest, just remember you want to store it in a cool, dry place and keep it out of direct sunlight. And you can, the turmeric you do not consume, you can reuse some of the smaller rhizomes to start new plants in the same way in a humidity tray. So guys, one thing I failed to mention, that if you want to avoid this fertilizer here and you want to go completely organic, you can use bone meal once you transfer it to a larger pot, and that's a completely all-natural use, and it's also high in phosphorus, which is exactly what we want to maximize root and rhizome growth. So guys, turmeric has gained quite a bit of attention in the last 4 or 5 years for its health benefits. So it's one of those things you'll always want to grow in your vegetable garden as a house plant, because you can divide it and just keep growing it, and you'll have these wonderful rhizomes that you can add to your daily diet, and you can make shakes from them. You can add it to your protein powders, and it will really help you. They say it's really good as an anti-inflammatory. So anyways, I'm going to take this out to the garden, water it, and bring it back in the greenhouse and let it survive here for the rest of the winter. So guys, I want to say thanks so much for watching. I hope you'll like and subscribe. If you found anything interesting, or if I left something out, or you want to add something, please leave a comment down below. But try growing turmeric from grocery store turmeric. Just make sure it's organic, and I really think you'll enjoy the results. This is also a beautiful plant. Have a great day, guys.